Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this edition of Reporter's Notebook. Today, I am joined by Miss Emily. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Loving this weather today. It was a very nice surprise waking up, and it was like way warmer than I expected. So
no, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, I was like, this weather, and it's gonna be here for a couple of days, not the weekend.
Yeah,
but it is gonna be here at least throughout the week.
I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, honestly,
with the sunshine
right now. Yeah, and especially I have family in Texas.
Oh,
and they're all dealing, or they were dealing, now it's like 70 degrees, but last week they were just dealing with like the worst of...
So did they have power last week? Were they one of the people that lost power?
So my parents had power, rolling outages, whatever rolling outages are, but my parents had power, or didn't have power and then had power, but my best friend didn't have power for 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
And then that was in Austin. And in Austin it was really bad.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy. I'm hoping your friend's good now. They're, warm and safe somewhere.
They're fine. They survived. Which is like, compared to like a lot of things that are happening in Texas right now with like the fallout of it, like the bursting pipes and stuff, like at least they're not dealing with that. So very lucky in that regard.
Crazy past week, that's for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of journalists out there doing their work without having time periods without power and stuff like that. So that's pretty amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So going into, I don't know how to smoothly pivot from one topic to the other. Beautiful sunny day. Yeah. So Emily, tell us why you're here today and what we did today.
For sure. So for some of you that may have been, you've been tuning into Reporter's Notebook, regularly, me and Victoria like to sit down every Tuesday to do a Reporter's Notebook because on Tuesdays is the days where we edit, record, and post our podcast, our weekly podcast, What the Politics, that we just love doing. So we love to jump on here and chit chat to you guys about what our topic was, who we got to talk to today, and kind of give you a little more background. So hopefully you were, interested enough to tune in and check out What the Politics at WNCT.
And this is something, so today's topic was about presidential powers. And one of the things that we've both noticed as reporters is that our current president, President Joe Biden, has signed a lot of executive actions. Yeah. What was the number?
I think it was 32 right now. 32 or 33 right now.
Exactly. And no matter whether you're for him or against him,
that's a lot.
That is a lot. And that's something that as reporters, people who check on people who are in power, we wanted to take a look at what executive actions are, what presidential powers are. And something that blew my mind is that the presidential powers are not in our Constitution.
They're implied.
Yeah, so
implied powers.
Can you tell us a little bit more about I learned that today about what that was about.
So basically, it's not outright in the Constitution that the president has these executive orders, executive powers to do these things. It is obviously implied because he is the president of the United States. And if Congress doesn't end up passing a law or passing a bill or agreeing on it, the president then obviously has the power to do so. So it's a very interesting, obviously checks and balances. Everybody, you learned about that in civics class growing up, in the 8th grade government class, all of that. But so we went a little deeper into that. And one of the really interesting things that I think we talked about was the amount of executive orders from different presidents and kind of what that means, or if it means anything at all, really. We talked about FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, has like the record. He, in his first month being sworn in as president, signed 30 executive orders. Joe Biden signed 28 in his first month. And after that, the most comparable ones are really Trump had 12. Obama had 16 he signed, I believe, and then Truman was the closest after that with 13 executive orders in the first month. So I just thought that was super interesting. And we kind of talked a little more about, do those numbers mean anything? Do they signify anything? Or is it just kind of a coincidence? Yeah,
that's right. You stumped our guest for today because you asked a question that it was a really good question too. Thanks. About how do executive orders preface or kind of give us an idea of how good the presidency is going to be. And we explored that idea with our guests. And another pretty interesting observation is that these executive orders, or Congress seems to let these executive orders slide without as much challenge during times of distress, disaster. We think about the Great Depression, we think about the Cold War, and then right now we think about COVID, the COVID crisis that we're going with. So I thought that was something interesting, and also our guests, there was besides talking about presidential powers, we talked about another kind of topic. Do you want to go into and explore what else we talked about?
Yes. So the other topic we dove a little into is our guest, Dr. James Fink, is he specializes or studies Civil War, the Civil War time era. So we dove a little bit into that because, right now, especially after the Capitol riots and insurrection, all of, these big things that have been happening over the past few months in our country, the comparison between the two, because a lot of people had made the comparison between the Civil War and what's been going on in our political arena for the past couple months. So we dove a little bit into that and, how things like these, how these revolutions or how these situations come about, and how we can hopefully try to avoid repeating them in the future, and then trying to tackle those harder topics within our government.
Right, and those are just a few talking points, snapshots of the conversation that we had with our guests. I really enjoyed our guests that we had.
I did too. Today. It was a really cool conversation. I think we both learned a lot, and like me and Victoria always say, that's like, this is our politics is one of our passions. So every time we do one of these podcasts, we're learning new things as well, things that we need to refresh ourselves on, or just new things that we get to learn each time. So it's a learning process for us, just like it is for you guys, which is really fun.
Right. And of course, you can tune in at WNCT.com. There's the features tab. Then you go to WNCT Podcast Network. And we're next to our competitors. I'm just kidding. They're not our competitors. They're just our sports partner, of course, which is the sports podcast. And if you have Spotify, if you have Apple, you can search us up on those apps and you can download episodes, you can save episodes, you can play those episodes whenever you want. So be sure to check out those the episodes on those applications. And then again, if there's any ideas, any guests that you want us to invite, I mean, we reached out to a bunch of guests, but if you have any guest ideas, any topics that you want us to hear us talk about, just make sure to click the article where our podcast is linked to. And at the very bottom, Emily's email's on there, my email's on there. Send us topics, send us guest ideas, and we'll read those and we'll get back to you.
Yes. So I've recently also linked both of our Twitter usernames, I guess you call it, on those as well. So yeah, please feel free to reach out to us, message us, just let us know how you think we're doing, any ideas, any topics, anything you'd like to share with us. We'd love to hear it.
Feedback is always welcome and appreciated. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Reporter's Notebook. We'll see you next week.